Hello, youth. This is a video game. We play those.
Hey everybody, today I'm giving you the beatdown on Dark Cloud. So Dark Cloud is one of my favorite games. It was published by a company called Level 5, who is much more famous now for their Professor Layton games. They came along in around 1998, where the owner of Level 5 was an employee and partner in another gaming company, and he left to start on his own. Well, he didn't have enough power to go forward on his own or money, so he partnered up with Sony, and the result was Dark Cloud, which was their first game. Now, the game was supposed to be originally a launch title, but it got pushed back in development for upgrades, which really benefited the game itself. It came along about a year and a half after the PlayStation 2 was released. It's a lot. It's in the same vein as Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time as far as the graphics and the 3D world play, but and the fight mechanics. The fight mechanics in the dungeons are very similar. It's kind of a hack and slash. And that's pretty much where the similarities between the two games ends. Just graphics and fight mechanics are fairly similar. You have the lock and load and hack and slash options. But Dark Cloud is more of a city builder combination dungeon crawler. The dungeons are randomly generated, and as you go through, your character Toan collects Atla, which are these little floating balls that contain pieces of a village in it, and each level is a different village. So you'll collect these pieces, and then when you leave the dungeon and go back above ground, you put them together to remake the village. So you also get to go around and speak to each villager as you put their house where you put it, and they will make special requests. And if you fulfill all the requests, you get special prizes. Sometimes it's a sword, sometimes it's a new fight move, but it's always interesting. One of my favorite things about this game is the fact that it's randomly generated dungeons. So even if you have to leave the dungeon because you didn't have enough food or water, when you come back, it won't necessarily be the same dungeon you left. The floor will be a different floor. It'll have a different layout, and they're fairly simplistic layouts, but they're going to be a little bit different each time. Now, each level has a different key to get to the back part of the board where the treasures are better. You're going to collect things back there like diamonds, rubies, and sapphires. And so you take these stones that you get and you get to add them to your sword, which I love, because in this game, you don't upgrade your character. You upgrade their weapons, and you can go through multiple iterations of different weapons. Toan has swords. The other members of your parties have different weapons, but again, you upgrade them and keep going until you get a master weapon. And you need stones as attachments. They build up hit points and HP. When you kill a certain amount of enemies, you can move up to the next level with your weapon. And I've actually messed up before because I really enjoy grinding, especially in this game. And I've done so much and built up my sword so far before that when I finally got to the end boss, the Dark Genie, I killed him with one shot. And I was a little disappointed in myself because I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have left it a little bit to where there was more of a challenge. But for most people, that's not going to be the case because you're just going to play through like normal. The characters that get to join your party are interesting as well. You have Chow, the rabbit. I'm sorry, she's a cat. The rabbit is a moon man named Osmond, and he uses a machine gun, which is good for a ranged weapon. I really enjoy that. It helps out a lot with some of these creatures. Ruby also has a ranged weapon. It's magic rings that she uses. Chow uses a slingshot, and she has a great slingshot called Steve is one of the options, and Steve will actually talk to you throughout the game, and he'll give you hints. The second person that joins your party is a character named Goro, and Goro uses a large hammer. Now, my favorite thing about Goro is there's an area in the game where you can actually get a frozen tuna instead of a hammer. And I use that frozen tuna quite a bit. It really amuses me to go beating the hell out of everyone with a giant frozen fish. As the dungeons progress, you have need of each individual character. Child jumps holes that Toan can't jump because she's half cat. Goro opens doors that Toan can't open because it has a hammer switch. Ruby charges magic crystals that open doors. So everyone has their contributions, and all around it makes it a fairly solid game. And it's also very simple to switch between characters at any time. You just hit your select button and rotate through, and hit the X button on whoever you want to use at any given time. I don't know what it is about this game. Maybe the fact that you can excessively grind and keep going back to dungeons over and over even after you've defeated those dungeons. But I just really, truly enjoy this game. And it has a very satisfying story. But when you get to the very end of it, you have an entirely different story thrown at you. And it really ties everything together really, really well. As a matter of fact, inside this case, I actually have my memory card of a game that I've beaten on it, and I leave it in there because after you beat the game, another dungeon opens up, and it has 100 levels in which you can get the final master weapon, which is the Dark Chronicle sword. You get it from the Black Knight after you beat all 100 levels of the final dungeon. But that's after you defeat the game and Dark Genie. And then you can go back and just work the dungeons forever. And there's a lot of fun in that. Because like I said, all the dungeons are randomly generated. I would honestly say this is in my top 2 to 3 favorite games. I guess that's about it. This is Dark Cloud for PlayStation 2. Give it a try. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you.